All right, great to have you back. I went for that interlude, and still you're watching this morning on LN 24/7 as we get ready to bring in our guest on this segment of the program, Pace Setters. It's always about young people doing great things in a very challenging environment. And this time we'll be looking at the issue of freedom of expression and association over the internet in Nigeria. Now, let me bring you up to speed with our guest. Now, she is a digital rights lawyer on a mission to establish a legal framework at a national and regional level that safeguards free, open internet while upholding human rights. Now, she champions strategic litigation in courts to challenge constraints on freedom of expression, association, and assembly. She coordinates advocacy campaigns to enforce these fundamental rights across West Africa, envisioning a thriving civic space for current and future generations in Nigeria. Now, with over 12 years of legal practice, she has committed the past 8 years to defending the rights of journalists. And I say, yay, here Zoe is grinning there, primarily on pro bono basis before Nigerian courts and West African regional ECOWAS courts. Now, she is renowned for her pivotal role in prosecuting landmark case of Amnesty International, Togo, and 7 others. Now, the Republic of Togo addressing the internet shutdown, which earned the judgment the 2022 Columbia University Global Freedom of Expression Prize. Wow, for a significant legal ruling. Now, Mojirayo actively engages in litigation related to gender rights, sexual and gender-based violence, and gender discrimination. She represented Amnesty International Sierra Leone in advocating for the rights of pregnant schoolgirls in Sierra Leone in the WAVE versus Sierra Leone case at the ECOWAS court. Mojirayo is the principal partner of MON Legal, a law firm based in Abuja, Nigeria, and she's a founder of DigiCivic Initiative, a non-governmental organization. She is a fellow of the Internet Society of Nigeria and serves as co-chair of the Legal and Digital Rights Working Group. Wow. And so much about this lady. Her name is Mojirayo Ogunlana. Okay, Mojirayo Ogunlana will be joining us shortly. But before she joins us, we'll be talking about the issue of freedom of expression and association over the internet in Nigeria. Is there a challenge with freedom of expression over the internet? We know the government has frowned at the liberty at which people make statements, some unguarded over the internet about public personalities, leaderships, leaders in different climes, and many has been called. I know the Senate was ruminating over regulating the internet lately, Zoe. That's been a very heated discussion and debate.
I think it's basically an offshoot from what is happening, where journalists, not just journalists, but people generally, are not really, it is frowned upon, from people going on to say whatever they like, or for them to be able to express themselves freely on the internet. And we see this happen especially on certain social media platforms where certain narratives are controlled, and if on certain narratives are pushed, and if that particular narrative does not, or if what anyone says does not line up with what the narrative or what the inclinations of those social media platforms are, your content is likely going to be pulled down, or you're likely going to be muted, or maybe even totally deleted in some cases. And we've seen that happen. We saw with what happened when then Twitter, now X, was suspended in the country. We saw what went with that. And so that is an issue that exists, for different reasons at different levels, different people. That issue of the freedom of expression. And
so you need to get yourself up to speed. In 2019, the anti-social media bill was introduced by the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the 5th of November, to criminalize the use of social media in peddling false or malicious information. Now, original title of the bill is Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill 2019. So you need to look at that, need to read that and find out, what the fine lines are saying to make sure that you don't fall on the wrong side of the law when you're making, statements on social media. We have a social media bill. Many analysts have said this bill is an attempt to to crack down on dissent when it comes to issues of government or public officers. So this has been something that has been a heated debate right now, but I don't think Nigeria is the only one that has this regulation in place. So we'll be hearing a lot from our guest who will be joining us shortly. She is a legal practitioner and wealth of knowledge in digital rights, and she'll be sharing her thoughts. We're living in a digital age, right, Zoe? And
yes.
that comes with its own challenges. Living in the digital space, there are rules and regulations, for you to operate in that space. We do recall the issue of the lady who put a product on social media.
Yes, Erisco
tomato paste. Now she's paying, a huge price for what she did. Obviously, if she knew better, she might not have taken that route.
Well, obviously, she didn't know it was going to turn out that way.
That way, yeah.
Although I think that her case was just a scapegoat. Many people come on to make comments. Of course, what she said subsequently was what put her in trouble when she said that the tomato paste was killing people. That the product was literally killing people.
So she had to provide. You need to provide evidence for that.
Where's the proof? Where's the evidence? And so the CEO of the company took her on that, and before we knew what was happening, she was whisked to Abuja. The inspector of police himself sort of took up the issue, and she's being charged under the Cyber Act. Lots of things. But then now she's in for it. She's been
all right.
Lots of things. Well, it's not really about her, but we're looking at the freedom of
expression, the freedom of the digital space. And gladly, we have joining us right now Mojirayo Ogunlana, digital rights lawyer and activist. Mojirayo, great to have you join us on this morning.
Good morning. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, do project that way so we can hear you clearly. Well, Mojirayo, how are you doing today? It's a great pleasure to meet you. Considering your work, pro bono services for journalists who have been adversely affected by the unfavorable, unfavorable environment within Africa, especially. You've seen your great work you're doing, and really love to know more about that. All right, let's get up to speed. You're a fellow of the Aspen Foundation and Impact West Africa program. There was a closing ceremony of that association was held in the 7th of June in Dakar. Now, it was a 9-month program, had 10 fellows from West African countries, Senegal, Niger, Burkina Faso, and you represented Nigeria. Now, it was organized by Neil Advocacy Agency and Aspen Foundation. The aim to train Africans in advocacy techniques. Can you tell us more about that program and how it has helped you.
Very much. The Aspen program has been one that it opened another. How do I say? It opened another chapter to someone like me who my skill basically is usually in the courtroom. I'm the kind of person, I love going to the court. I'm a litigation person. And I have this aspect of me also that always advocates for human rights. And I know that I specialize in the freedom of expression and assembly and association, including gender rights, which I've been doing since I've been called to bar. So the program really was one that I think it helped me to see how to do advocacy in another way, in a way that you can structure it um, to send a message in a way that everyone will get the message. Because one of the aspects of this fellowship was storytelling, and how to tell your story in a way that people can connect with you, in a way that people can understand the message you're trying to pass along. So if I was going to pass a message, for instance, about Twitter shutdown, I would ordinarily just draft my processes and go to court, because I was in that case also. And in 2021, I also sued Nigeria with 8 applicants. We went to the ECOWAS court, but our cases were merged with the SERAP case. And so in that kind of situation, if I wanted to do the advocacy aspect of it, I now have a tool that makes it different, whereby even the public, the media, they would really jump on it immediately they see the message. So that's one of the things that I really learned from this Aspen fellowship. And of course, there was the aspect, of course, writing op-eds and all. And I think that has been one of a challenging part, because I used to think myself as someone who can wake up in the morning and write anything, write articles, draft processes. But knowing the structure of an op-ed, it's very, very different. And it was good to learn all those. It was very good. It was a wonderful experience in general. Thank you.
All right, Mojirayo, you've done so much work and you've had over 12 years of legal practice. You've committed your past 8 years to defending the rights of journalists, primarily on pro bono basis before courts. What is the passion? How do what's the passion for what you do? What drives you to do this? Because people who do this are few and far between. Is it the money? There's no monetary gain. So what is the passion that drives you?
It's quite interesting that you're asking that question, because I've asked myself several times, what is this passion all about? So I've asked in a way, even I ask a lot about it, considering that I keep giving, and it's not like what you get back is commensurate to what you give. So, but I know that it's rooted in my upbringing. I was raised as a child to express myself. So it's interesting, usually in African society, we have, women discriminated against, inequality. But I think what really helped me was that my father spent most of his adult age in the United States. So I think he relent, or how to say, he unlearned where he was coming from, and he learned a new system. And I think that was one of the how do I put it, the methods he used in raising me as a child. So I knew from the onset when I was growing up that I could speak, and I could speak my truth, whether you want to hear it or not. So when I come, then growing up and then going to law, generally when you enter into the law firm, I was working in law firms, big law firms, where I worked 2 different places where, you do generally what law is. I started discovering that though I love to go to the courtroom, I wasn't finding some kind of fulfillment. But luckily, I met someone who introduced me to, a journalist who was having issues, and I just decided to do the case. And when I did the case, I felt some kind of, yes, finally, I'm doing something that gives somebody the ability to speak, the ability to do their work, because it's so absurd, you know, the government in West Africa trying to shut down the journalists, and it's sad because we know that you're trying to claim to the world that you are a democratic nation, for instance, Nigeria. And if you're a democratic nation, it means that you need to open your ears. You need to be available to listen. And the only way you can listen is if we have the right to information, to access the information and to disseminate the information at our disposal. And the agency that makes that possible is journalists, the press. And without them, I wonder what democracy would look like in Africa. I've tried to envision it, and I don't like what I see at the back of my mind. And so I told myself that this is a vanguard, this is what I'm going to do. Even if there is anything coming in from there or not, I'm going to make sure that I will do my part. I'm not going to sit down complaining and saying, oh, my government is not giving us the right information. No, I will be one of those who would actually insist that we have access to information, and that journalists are journalists are human beings. And if they are human beings, they have the right to human rights, fundamental human rights. And when they have the right to fundamental human rights, it means that they have the right to practice their profession. So when you cut them out, in fact, I know that a lot of journalists do not even have financial gratification from what they do. So it's also from the love of, let us get the information out there. That's why a lot of journalists are doing what they do, because I get sad when I hear the kind of things that they say, they take home. It's sad. It's the pure truth. And then to now have on top of that a government that does not appreciate your sacrifice. No, 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 it's not fair. So if I'm going to use my tool as somebody who knows the law, then I will use this and I will feel fulfilled. I'm feeling very fulfilled. There is no big money. I'm doing it pro bono, yeah, but I feel very fulfilled. I feel elated when I can hear that another journalist has been given the opportunity to speak, to give information, to share to people, so that, there is also one thing I keep telling people: there is a danger of a single story. We cannot afford in a democracy to have a single story. We cannot afford that narratives will be controlled by government. And so, what we have to do, as somebody, for instance, somebody like me who knows the law, is to give my best to the society and to do what I can do with what I have at my disposal.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, it's still in line with the advocacy work that you've been doing. Tell us a bit about the advocacy that you've taken to the National Judicial Institute, the NJI, in order to promote digital rights and civic space manual. And this is in the training of judicial officers in Nigeria. Tell us a bit about that. Tell us what the manual is all about and how that has impacted, or the impact that has made in your advocacy to this demographic.
So in 2023, okay, about the ending of 2022, I took a case before the Federal High Court, and it has to do with the telecommunications shutdown in Sokoto State. Now, in Sokoto State, around that 2021, not only Sokoto, Kaduna, Zamfara, a part of Bauchi, and one other state I can't remember, Kebbi, I think. The governors of those states had decided to shut down telecommunications in a purported move to fight bandits. So I went to the court and I addressed the court and I explained to the court that very, very fundamental to the issue of freedom of expression is a tripartite right, or should I say a tripart test, which says that even if Section 45 of the Constitution gives the government the opportunity to restrict the right to freedom of expression, it must be done in a way that it is justifiable in a democratic setting. And to get to that point of justification in a democratic society, you must be able to show that there is a law in place which gives you the opportunity to shut down telecommunications. Then, not only that, you must now tell as a second part test that your intention of shutting down the telecommunications is to project a legitimate aim. It is in the interest of a legitimate aim that you're doing it. And then you must now show that not only is it a legitimate aim, that it is proportionate. That the measures you want to take at this point in time is proportionate to your legitimate aim. So that was the question I brought before the court. Unfortunately, the court did not even look at the proportionality aspect of a test that is cumulative. Even though you pass the first test, you need to pass the second and you need to pass the third. So the court was basically saying that the National Communications Commission has the right, because they have a rule that allows them to shut down telecommunications. So that became a problem for me as someone who is seeing a trend that needed to be addressed. So I'm seeing that we have judges who know the law. I'm seeing that we have judges who are very brilliant and intelligent, and they have learned so much coming from, the way we learn our law. We learn so much precedents. We learn all these we have these archaic laws, for instance, the criminal code, the penal code. We have all these things that they have defined us, but the society is progressing. And as the society is progressing, we know that the internet is facilitating the fast pace of the society, the progress. So we need judges who can actually move with the times. They need to move with the way the society is progressing. And so I thought that if the judge had a very comprehensive understanding of digital rights, then probably he may not have, probably because I can't even still decide for him, he may not have decided the way he decided. So having the opportunity to have founded an NGO called DigiCivic Initiative, which exists to promote digital rights and the civic space. So I thought about it and said, okay, maybe what we can do is to have a digital rights manual where we are able to explain certain cogent and very relevant terms in the 21st century to every judge who comes before the National Judicial Institute for training. So the idea is that the National Judicial Institute will adopt it as their curriculum. And when they adopt it as a curriculum, it means that every judge passing through the National Judicial Institute, we have some form of understanding of the digital rights from the aspect of the civic space. And when we say from the aspect of the civic space, we are talking about the right to freedom of expression, right to freedom of assembly, and right to freedom of association. And so that was what birthed that manual. And the manual was drafted, and we wrote our proposals and sent it to the National Judicial Institute with a very how do I say, we are driven and very hopeful that we will get a positive result from that institute so that they can adopt it. Once they adopt this, we don't even, I myself, I don't need to be there to train them, because the manual itself is self-explicit. It encompasses what it means to talk about access to the internet, and then also gives them opportunity to consider the jurisprudence from the European Commission, the European Court of Human Rights, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights. So we gave them a lot of laws from different regions of the world. We gave them jurisprudence coming from India, for instance, that has been very progressive when it comes to the right to the internet. So we presented a lot of opportunities for them to have, to develop, to self-develop, to also have this kind of understanding of everything in that aspect of digital rights, because we know, digital rights is very broad, but in that part aspect, so that it can help them to make informed decisions, so that the decision will be seen as very well standardized, standard, and meeting the realities of the modern day in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
I think it's brilliant being a stakeholder in that that sector. You trying to make positive changes. Is there any reason why this brilliant manual that will upgrade our judiciary, is there any reason why it should not be embraced? Is there any why it should not be implemented?
I don't think there should be any reason. But one of the things I'm learning very, very quickly as someone who has moved into sort of like I have one foot in the NGO world or somehow. I'm learning that governments, they talk. Governments, they go to forums, they sign documents because, oh, everybody's signing it, let's sign it, But they tell themselves, and it's saying they tell themselves that, oh, we are going to fulfill our obligation to respect, to protect, to fulfill human rights. They tell this, but genuinely, I don't think government really wants to give the people the opportunity to actually exercise those rights. I think it's more of like they're just talking. So a lot of times they politicize some documents like this digital rights manual. They politicize it rather than embrace it because maybe it's not coming from how do I put it, a particular set of people. If you have entered into a government institution, you know that the reality is that a lot of things are just about politics. It's not really about whether you have a very brilliant document in place. It may be that, oh, it's not the usual lawyer or it's not the usual organization that we work with that presented this document. So there is already a bias. And then there may be an issue of, oh, wait, did the person mobilize you? There is always an issue of mobilization, which comes up because of the situation of corruption in the country. So we cannot take that out all those places. So if this document will be embraced, it will be by someone who genuinely cares about this country and by someone who really believes that, oh, this is a document full of enough tools, or even if it's not enough tools, some tools to help our judges. And if it's coming from a genuine place and sincerity, of course it will be embraced, and then we can take it up from there. In fact, I had even suggested, because I had a one-on-one with the director of studies, and I'd even suggested that as somebody who is really invested in this project, we can help them to facilitate grants for training judges if they feel that the government cannot take up that kind of financial burden. We will present proposals before organizations like MacArthur Foundation or Ford Foundation or any other organization that we know would be glad to add to the society, because that's what they do to add to the society. So we actually pitch that before the director of studies, and hopefully they see that this is a genuine move to help the country as a whole, to help the society as a whole. Because when justice is seen to be done and manifestly done by the ordinary man on the street, then that also boosts the confidence in the judiciary. Thank you.
Mojirayo, as we round off the discussion, there's so much to talk about, but action, a call to action. What would you like to tell young people who are in the legal sector, who want to aspire to reach the summit, who want to make their impact, who are really meeting some of these bureaucratic roadblocks that you've talked about, and the issues of corruption? What would you like to say to them right now?
Okay, so for every young lawyer out there, it's all about passion. You need to have the passion. You need to build your passion. You need to look at it from the perspective of what is it that, even if I'm not being paid, or even if the world is crashing down behind me, it is something I will believe, it is something I will take to my grave. So when you have that thing and you found that thing, then you should focus on it. give it your best, develop yourself in that area, and then do your best. Because, for instance, one of the things that DigiCivic will be doing this year is training young lawyers and all lawyers who are interested in digital rights. We're going to be training them. We'll be taking them through a series of litigation surgeries so that they can have a very they can have a very comprehensive understanding of what digital rights is all about. So that's one of the things that I am doing freely for the society. They're not going to be paying for it. It's going to be free. And the idea is to train them in, for instance, in the 36 states of the country, and then raise like pockets of digital rights lawyers. So we are looking forward to that. And any lawyer who is on this call, who is watching this video, if you think that's your interest, then you can reach out. And then, of course, when the call is out, you also jump on it and make yourself a vanguard also. Be somebody who can do something for the country, not really about the money that you gain from, the aspect of your practice. So that's just about it.
Well, Mojirayo,
Thank
thank you
you.
so much. It's been a great pleasure. It's been very insightful discussion with you. Extraordinary personality you are, and really do commend you, your courage and passion for what you do. Do definitely keep us posted on these developments so we can also, cascade to youths out there, so they can participate, actively and be a positive influence within their sphere. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts this morning.
Thank you very much for having me. I truly appreciate this morning, and I just in my parting, I can just quickly chip in there that the issue of Chioma's tomato paste review is, it shouldn't have gotten to this level. If I was a Risco, for instance, it was just somebody expressing their own view about a product. That was an opportunity for a Risco to have gathered public sentiment or love for his product, but he mismanaged it. So that's a discussion for another day, and I'm looking forward to that.
Certainly, certainly. Thank you so much, Mojirayo. It's great having you. We'll definitely see you subsequently. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that's where we leave discussion for now. Interestingly,